Thank you for tuning in to Rise Above TV, where we are empowering humanity and supporting unity. You're watching Real Talk, Real Men, the place where men gather to talk about topics they typically don't talk about. Together, these gentlemen will mindfully redefine masculinity.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Justin the Change Artist. Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk, Real Men, where men get together to mindfully redefine masculinity. I'm back with Barry, Angel, Gylan, and Kevin. How have you guys been? Thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having us, man. Doing well. Happy to be here.
Same here. Glad to be back.
Yeah, so picking up where we left off on responsibility, what do you feel is the responsible course of action a man should take if they hear or see other men catcalling or mistreating women? And does the bro code need to be redefined? There's a lot of hypothetical situations we can throw out there. So instead of throwing out a have you ever, a little bit before we started, Barry, you said you had a few stories or a few experiences on a few of the things we were going to talk about. So I want to throw it over to you first, and what you have to say about
it. In my younger days, many years ago, to step up and to impact a large group of men about something like that, I wouldn't dare do. I'd be so reticent to do that. But the thing, but the working of the last 15 years really changed my life, the way I present. Before the virus hit, so it's about 4 months before that, so it's around October last year, something like that. I was in actually my spiritual center. So I'm in my spiritual home, been going for 25 years. Conscious people, wonderful people, men and women. We're multicultural, interracial, a whole bit. And there's some guys that I love, and we hang out. We're kind of bros in a way. But there were four of them in a group, and they were commenting about a beautiful woman that walked by. Now, I noticed her. I'm straight, so I noticed, I'm single, so I noticed these women. But the way that they were joking with each other, it was almost like they'd never been to any sort of conscious raising spirituality of anything of any sort. They're like they were teens. And these guys are all in their 40s, 50s. And so I went up to them and was like, I couldn't not say something. And I wasn't particularly eloquent about it, but it was like, guys, it's like, where do you think you are? And they were looking at me like, what do you mean? It's like, for a start, she could probably hear you because it wasn't that big a room. It's like it's the front, the rotunda of the theater we used. So like, she could have heard you, first of all. Secondly, have some respect. And they were all like, yeah. They sort of laughed it off, but I think I impacted them. So, and I didn't go back and check with them after that, but that was the experience I had. But it felt, in a way, like, I wasn't going to say righteous in a way, but it also felt authentic. But I felt like I couldn't sit by and do nothing. Since my work is about honoring women in my coaching, to stand by and watch it happen there, especially in my spiritual home, was like, I can't not do something. So I interacted. I didn't do it like, step down, back off, be like arrogant. I was just saying, guys, please have respect. And I think I don't know, but I think it worked.
I don't have a personal first-hand experience, but I do have I was at the Pearl a couple of weeks ago, and I was hanging out with a friend of mine and one of his friends. And I guess they met up some girls there before I had got there, and they went to go get a drink. And while they were getting a drink, this guy walked up to the girl, one of the girls that they were with, and told him, he told her, I guess he was trying to pick her up. And he said, hey, is this guy that you're with your sugar daddy? Because I guess they look like a little bit different in age, or he was older than her.
Yeah.
And he was like, yo, man, like, that's really is that really necessary, And I guess they exchanged words, and he kind of went that way. And she kind of told him off. It's almost like she didn't even need the guy, but she kind of went off on him. And she ended up calling the cops on this guy, and the cops came to question him. But as far as the type of guys that I'm around, I don't have guys around me that do that. Although growing up in Puerto Rico, that's kind of part of the culture over there. Catcalling is very common. A girl walks by the street and you tell her something. And so girls over there are kind of used to it. It's just kind of the culture. Yeah. The man I am today, I guess it would depend on the situation. Like you were saying, you would kind of look to see, you can tell the girl's not feeling it. She's feeling unsafe. And then maybe I would step in and say something or ask a question. Is she all right? Are you okay? Do you need any help? Kind of a thing. That's my guess of how I would handle it today. I don't, and again, I don't know because I'm only speculating. I haven't been in that situation yet.
Yeah.
But that would be my speculation based on who I'm becoming today, you know.
Yeah.
But that's been the extent. The other extent is the first-hand experience is, you know, you're hanging out with a dude and a girl walks by and he kind of does this kind of thing. He kind of checks her out and he goes back to the conversation. The way I handle that is I try to lead by example and I just stay focused with him. I don't even look at the girl. I just kind of stay focused with who I'm with. I try to stay present with who I'm with.
Yeah.
But that's just how I am, period. I try to stay, I don't do any of that stuff, you know, but that's been the extent of the kind of guys that I hang out with. They don't really catcall or do anything like that, you know.
Gylan, Kevin, Kevin, it looks like you're still muted.
Oh yeah, I usually mute it when people are talking.
You guys got anything you guys want to jump in on this?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of piggybacking on what Angel was saying, I think a lot of times it's the leading by example. You know, not a lot of guys around me would really do that just because I don't personally do that. You know, it's not that I don't check, but, you know, if it's something like, you know, there's a way of doing it to where it's not this over the top type of thing, you know, like that's why I always find it hilarious on 40-Year-Old Virgin where he's all like, use your peripherals, you know, and he's just like walking, crashing into stuff. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's just like, you know, there's a way that I carry myself and I carry myself with women. And I do have a lot of women friends. I don't disrespect them in that way, not even in my music or in my art. It's not that I don't tend to hang around with guys that do that. It's just, it's not usually in my company. And in return, they kind of check themselves, you know, later on, whether that's a gradual thing or, you know, just right away. I just lead by example on that point. You know, in relationships, I'm not in a married relationship, but I have no problem with, you know, telling my homeboy, like, if he's going over the top or if he's out of line, you know, I have no problem with doing that. And I do it in a very respectful way. I'm just all like, hey, you know, let's try to look at it, you know, from her situation. I can understand that you're feeling this way and you don't feel appreciated as far as because you're going to work and you feel like when you come home, this, and this. But I always let him know that how you feel as far as what you can or cannot do as a man is no excuse to take that out on your family. It's like 100% not an excuse. And I see that, you know, happen where the man will feel in his depression, in that selfishness, you know, that he can go ahead and admit that out to as far as his family, you know, and I let him know like, hey, you know, this is a 50-50 thing. You may be going to work, but hey, have you dealt with your kids for a day? That in itself is work, you know. This is a team effort. If I see that, I will let a friend know like, hey, there's a better way of going about this.
Good. Gylan?
I look over my shoulder. I look left. I look right. And it's not because I'm a red-blooded male. It's because I think it's probably one of the most natural things that you can do is notice the beauty of somebody. As I've gotten deeper in my spiritual journey, what I have learned is one, nice guys are toxic, right? I spent my entire life or a long time trying to be a nice guy, trying to be different, rather than just trying to be a good human. And I think that when I figured out that it's more important to be a good human, then there's a lot of things that I let go because then I'm not holding certain things against myself and understanding that there is nurturing within the nature of who we truly are. It's very interesting because my sister was born when I was 10 years old. So I remember she used to lay on my back and we'd watch, you know, Sunday or Saturday cartoons. And so I have this weird energy with my sister because I've seen her and I see women a lot of times that I need to protect them. There's a spot in San Antonio called Arjan's, and I remember a guy assaulting a girl. I went to break that up and all his buddies started beating me up. So I've been in that place where I've seen women being assaulted or being in bad situations, and I will step in and I'll look at a woman in her eyes if there's a bad situation. And if she gives me that look, I step in and understand that the energy that we're feeling inside of us, another person can feel that energy. And I think a lot of times women will tell us if they need help through energy, through eye contact. I know for a fact that women will tell you if they're attracted to you, like literally almost tell you that they're attracted. There are certain things that, it's very interesting because we're seeing all these clips of Joe Biden, right? The creepy old man, right? And how he's touching girls and all this other stuff. I'm not here to defend what he's doing because I think that we've raised, especially young women, to the point of go sit on grandpa's lap, right? And then she's like, I don't want to sit on grandpa's lap, or I don't want to sit on uncle's lap, or I don't want to give them a hug, but we force them to do that, right? But I also think we have to be careful not to put every man or every situation in the Joe Biden category. I'm sure there's little girls that have run up to Joe Biden and hugged him. I'm sure there's little boys that have run up to Joe Biden and hugged him, but we're not seeing that. And that's, somebody mentioned propaganda. Was that before the conversation? Yeah. The propaganda of what we're seeing, it's playing on the lowest common denominator of who we are. So I think without a spiritual journey, without understanding, communication, especially with women, calling out our male friends, and it's hard. It's hard for me to call out my male friends. I'll be very honest. But there are certain situations I won't go to. I won't go to a situation where there are men that are married that are just going to go fuss about their wife. I don't want to hear that. I don't need to be a part of it because that's not where my happiness lies, right? And I understand men need to do that. Men need to be men, but that's also a very toxic, in my opinion, thing. You're telling me things, maybe you need to be talking to your wife about it, or you need to be talking to your therapist about it. But sitting in a room, drinking and talking about a woman is not something, or women is not something that appeals to me. And I know back in the day, I wasn't quite, a kid, but I would say certain things and I would do certain things. So I just think it's our responsibility. It's not our fault, but it is our responsibility to really dig deep and see what women need, or understand what women need, but let them lead us in that part. Not to where we think something is wrong. Let them let us know what's wrong. I think we have all the answers, but not everybody is the same, and we have to be very careful of that piece. Is continuing to find our individuality, find our vibe tribe, and there's certain guys that I don't hang out with anymore just because it's a toxic piece to it. I don't go to clubs to get women drunk. That's never been my thing. Matter of fact, that was one of my things that I was completely against. And I messed up. And the one time not getting her drunk, but the one time I messed up, she called me. And next day she's like, well, you haven't called me. I said, well, I never called you before. What made you think I was going to call you now? Right. But that's just that piece. So I'm just being really real. And I still do. I think it is healthy I don't think it's healthy to have a gaze, to stare, to ogle. But I see women looking at men, and I think it's rather healthy.
For sure. There is a healthy way to do it. And one of the things I make very clear to at least anyone I'm going to be in a relationship with is that I have a certain appreciation for all women. Like I love women, I can find the beauty in any woman. I think everyone's beautiful. It's just on us to really kind of recognize it and see it. There's a healthy way to say, yeah, she does have, attractive features, and for you to be able to say that and I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but to express that to a man and another woman without being a douche about it.
Right.
Be careful what you say, because Janie's sitting right over there. Don't get in trouble.
No, I get what you're saying, and I appreciate what Guylan brings up, because it's very natural. Like another time I went to Pearl, and I was in my bicycle, and I was getting ready to park my bicycle, and right there in front of me where I'm parking my bicycle, there's a beautiful woman. Of course I looked. And then it so happened to be that the buddy that I was going to talk to, he was like, oh man, did you see that beautiful woman? I was like, yeah, she's very beautiful. I love the way she was dressed, the way she prepared herself. Like, she looked beautiful. And then we started having this conversation. It was like, where's that coming from? Am I looking because I'm conditioned to look? or am I looking because I'm really truly appreciating the beauty, you know? And I feel like when it's like you can look at a piece of art and you don't have to make a comment about every piece of art that you see. But if there's a piece of art that's in front of you, like, whoa, like this is absolutely breathtaking to me, then why not? You know, so that's kind of where I'm at. I don't say something about every piece of art that's in front of me. But if I see something that it's like, it's really breathtaking, of course I'm going to admire it, maybe internally. And if it happens to be one of my friends and we comment about it, it's like, yeah, man, she's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Boom, I leave it at that, you know?
I know some of us are in relationships, some of us are single. How does your approach change with women from when you were a toxic male to being a little bit healthier and a little bit further along in the spiritual journey? Oh man, look! I think I know what I want.
Look, we're all laughing. We're like, oh.
Here we go.
Hey, I gotta go, man. I gotta go, man.
It's been real. Oh, man.
I'm putting something on the table right now, though. But just to be clear, as straight men, our radar is noticing women. We are innately, we're basically, our ancestry DNA is hunters. We would hunt prey. And to be blunt about it, when we're single especially, we're checking out all the women out there. Even if it's not even conscious, we're doing it automatically because that's our radar. We're also checking out the threats from other men and the competition. So it's innate in our DNA to do that. When we're conscious, are we going to be resisting that and fighting it inside? Or are we going to be okay with what's happening? Because I notice women all the time. I mean, yeah, I'm single. And I'm in LA, which is a lot of beautiful women here. I'm not doing anything about it, which is the key. Appreciating beauty, that's what Angel said. I appreciate women and how beautiful they are. But it's like not in me to go and approach every single one of them. That's not appropriate. And also, the other thing that I was actually on an interview earlier today, talking about in terms of what I'm looking for in a relationship, I'm looking for a partner in the work I do. Because my work is so specific about coaching, about relationship, about love, 99% of the women I meet won't fit the paradigm. They don't have the understanding that I already do. And that's unfortunate. There's also the truth. I can go and talk to these women, but once I find out that they're a personal assistant to some guy and they don't have any understanding of this, I can't teach them what I know and be in a relationship with them. It doesn't work. So I've learned to appreciate, and just one sidebar on this, also at my spiritual center, and it's funny because she's going to become a client, I believe. This beautiful woman I know comes in for a while. She got, it's like these three women I know, her and the other two her friends, are all fitness models. They're gorgeous women. She was with, at that time, her husband. And he and I have always had a really abrasive relationship. And so she would come up and say hi to me all the time. But every time she'd come ahead of him because he was parking the car. As soon as he comes in, he grabs her and pulls away from me. Like I'm a threat. Now, I'm not interested in her at all. I like her a lot. I'm also interesting because I knew about his patterns. I was also very protective of her when they met. I didn't say anything, but I felt my desire to somehow come between her and him. And he basically is an ex-Navy SEAL. So I've got no chance of doing anything physically to stop him. But the sense about that instinct, so it's another piece of this, is there's a responsibility in me to be protective of the women in my life. Doesn't mean I can necessarily do anything about it, because there are people out there, like Angel was saying, there's other men out there, and you're saying, Guy, about you go to fight this guy, and these other guys jump you as friends of his. We may get in situations we can't get out of. Or we may just simply not get into them because we know better. But the intention, though, to be protective, to be respectful, to be appreciative of women, I think it's healthy for us to have as an innate focus in our lives.
I think when we learn not to catcall, right? When we learn that that's toxic, when we learn that piece of it, right? When we learn that we don't have to dance with every woman in the club, right? We can dance with one woman all night long. So when I was toxic, oh man, I made so many babies on the dance floor. It was ridiculous. It was just one of those things, all the time. And I'd walk different women to their cars and everything else. And as I kind of grew and I got older, I didn't do that anymore. It was one, but it's interesting because when I even compliment a woman now, I take a second, I walk up to her and I say, you might have heard this today, or something else might be going on, but I just wanted to let you know that I think you're absolutely beautiful. That's it. I'm not trying to get your number. I just thought I would give you that compliment. But the thing is I've given that compliment only one time to her. I didn't give it to 6 or 7 other women that day. It's not like I'm out there searching or looking.
Yeah, it's not a move. It's not a move you're using.
It's not a move, right? It's not a move. And I'm not looking for anything in return. Literally, you caught my eye, and I just wanted to say hello, and that was it, you know. And then I keep on moving, and I think that as we grow, that's part of it. And you know, we're going through a lot as men, and I'm not going to sit here and say, but you know, we hear toxic masculinity, we hear all these different things. We have to understand that, yeah, there's a difference in slapping a woman on her butt, or if she walks by, with my buddies used to do at a club, and grab the woman's butt as she walked by, or grab their arms. That is a huge difference in complimenting somebody. So in my ripe old, you know, 40 plus age, I just feel that I can give attention better and in more positive and meaningful ways. And understanding the entire beauty. And I think what I see now is I see much more of an aura. I see much more of the entire woman than I do her hair, or when I do her boobs and her butts. I see an entire woman. And there are things I'll give compliments on now that when I was, you know, up until probably, you know, 47, no, I'm joking. Up until up until, you know, my mid 20s, you know, complimenting women's hair. I mean, and as Kevin knows, in the African American community, you know, black women with natural hair, there's like this glow that you can see in them. And when I see that glow, man, I'm like, yo, sis, you look great. And it's not, I don't need their number. I don't need anything else. And I know I've said things to people are like, yo, you made my day. And I'm like, cool. That's all I needed to know. And I just keep on going, because I think as we mature, anyway, I'm talking a lot, but as we mature, I just think it's important that when we take the time, we look somebody in their eyes, we tell them what we think, and we let that energy flow and then keep on moving.
To springboard right off what you said, there was, so for me, the whole, like I wasn't ever a ladies' man growing up or anything. Like I hatched late, you could say, you know, and the initial knowledge around that whole subject, right, women and pickup and game and all that other stuff, came from like through sales book, like NLP. So there was NLP application for sales. I was using it for magic, and then there was NLP for pickup, right? And so for me, I learned all these patterns, all these things to say that worked, you know, and I just did them, and I got results. In some nights I got some didn't, and then I got better at some, worse at, you know, and it worked that way. So when we're talking about growth and responsibility, and especially doing the kind of work we do with other people as coaches, there's a part of it that you just can't turn off anymore. You're always reading someone, you're always, you know, making assumptions, testing your theories, you know, there's just, you notice it, you know. So coming from all that and wanting to be a little more responsible with that power, right? That knowledge, if knowledge is power, I make it a point, like Kylan said, to be very intentional with my compliments, especially if I see that the person is in need, is maybe having like a bummer day, so they decided to wear their favorite t-shirt or their favorite blouse with their matching earrings or something, you know. I'll take the time to notice that and just be like, hey, by the way, you're rocking that whole piece you put together, you look great, you know, it's really nice, and then just walk off. And it's like you said, you can make their freaking day just by noticing it. So when we talk about taking responsibility on a deeper level as professionals, I think that's one of the things that I make sure I do now knowing the impact of what I was doing recklessly, you know, for my own crap.
Hey, real quick, and this because I've known Angel for years now, right? I remember our first conversations were only about women. When we first linked up, right, because it was around dancing, that's all our conversations were about. And I remember like getting more spiritual and stuff like that, and going shopping for beads and stuff like that. Our conversations were never about women, right? So I can say personally, I've seen the growth, probably more in Angel, and, you know, if I had to be honest about even that. But I mean, now it would not be about women at all. I could almost guarantee.
Right.
Unless it was our daughters.
Right. I think for me, like, I growing up, because again, like we talked about in the first episode, I didn't have a mirror of a father, of a masculine in my life. So that part of me didn't get developed until recent years, you know? So growing up, I was always waiting to be chosen by a girl. I never went after a girl. And when I did go after a girl, because I didn't know how, it wasn't mirrored to me, I would screw it up. you know, I didn't know how to talk to them. I got nervous. I would I would get their number. Of course I would get their number, but there was this unwritten rules that I didn't know. Like you can't call them the next day and like this, all this BS, right? It's just like, so I would mess it up and I would come across as this desperate, needy little kid, you know? So I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to I'll wait for them to pick me. And when they pick me, then I had the green light to make a move. Now it's more of like my relationships are pretty much the same whether you're a guy or you're a girl. It makes no difference to me. Like I'm going to relate to you with the same respect, with the same love, with the same intention. And if from that relating, you and I can build a friendship, and from that friendship, you and I want to explore something romantic, then we determine that later. But I'm gonna ask Justin out to lunch. I could ask Gylan out to lunch, or Barry or Kevin, hey, let's go have some lunch. Just like I could ask a girl, hey, let's go have some lunch and just have a conversation. Like it's really no different. To me, it's all about relating, and then we go from there, you know? So that's kind of where I am today.
Closing words, anybody?
Oh, I was just saying, like, I think I'm the youngest one in the group. I'm still learning a lot of stuff. But I think my version of toxic, you know, what I learned from being toxic to now, my toxic was, you know, more so kind of like what Angel described. It was more so like it was the smothering or the too much, you know, love, you know, where I realized what that was it was a innate aspect of me to do the extreme. So it was just like if you had told me this, it was all like, all right, I'm a 10x it just because, you know, like I figure like, you know, I might as well just overdo it, you know, super toxic. But, you know, I had male friends and, you know, my stepdad pretty much to guide me in particular ways, because I wasn't the type to go out and just be like, all right, I see that girl, I'm gonna tell her, you know, she's pretty and get her number, anything like that. I was very much the very shy type, but what allowed, I guess, the attraction as far as to me was the fact that I was creative, and I didn't know that was like the honey, you know, to these women. So it was just all like that allowed me to have these different trial and errors, to where learning more about myself through these relationships, through as far as those toxic parts, and you know, the clinginess, what that exactly was and how that matured. Because it was like when I went through the phase of just being like, okay, that's not what women want, you know, and hearing as far as like the stories that my friends would have, my female friends would have, and just applying that and just being like, okay, what inside myself, you know, would I be clinging on to that same way that was very toxic? And a lot of times it would be clinging on to something like fear, whether it be fear of rejection, fear of loss, fear of, you know, all these different things that I would be projecting. And, you know, and if y'all haven't heard of human design, it's like a practice as far as just like, you know, with numerology and different things like that. So for me, my human design is being a projector. And so I have to wait for the invitation. And so I didn't realize all throughout my life that I would be acting on different invitations, and what invitations would mean by way of look or by way of conversation. It wouldn't be a flat out like, hey, I like you, so this and this. It would just be in actions. So that's what I had to learn, you know. So yeah, my toxic aspect was being super clingy, and I had to get out of that, you know, in my super early 20s.
I started, my awareness goes back to when I was in my teens in high school, being bullied by the other guys, the other boys, because I wasn't a jock, I wasn't a player, I was basically one of the few Jewish kids in the school, and so that was the persecution thing. So I was different. So I was actually found safety amongst the girls, because around the girls I wasn't getting beaten up, and the boys not safe, around the girls that were safe. So I had this relationship with girls that was really dysfunctional, because I couldn't take them out, I couldn't date them, but I was safe with them. So into my early 20s, I was actually in a place where I wouldn't actually do the approaching or the dating. I had to make sure it was really, really safe, and really clearly she wasn't a friend of mine before I could date her, because my friends took care of me and a relationship partner wasn't one of those. I had to be something different. So I had this whole misaligned, and one of the relationships in particular, which was quite a bit later, I mean, a couple of decades later, she actually pursued me. She noticed what I was doing, because I was in leadership in my spiritual center, and she basically asked me out and took me out and basically managed the whole relationship until the end of it, when she got fed up that I didn't take over. That was my wake-up call. That's what put me on this path I've been on for the last 15 years, was understanding that I was not living a masculine leadership role. So one of the biggest things, lessons for me, and one thing I talked about earlier in my interview today, is understanding what attracts us. Because we talk about attraction and such, about how we attract the women and how we talk about women. The thing is, what really goes on, this is something I've been doing some deeper study in my own work, is that what draws us to women is their light. And I mean that from the point of view, it's their vivaciousness, it's their energy, it's their excitement. Because women out there can look glamorous and beautiful. I said, I live in LA, beautiful women on the beaches, bike path, wherever I go, there's beautiful women. But a lot of them are so disconnected from their heart, their spirit, their life. They're beautiful, but not attractive. The attraction comes from the energy. Same as the other way around, women attracted to men. Yes, we've been promoted on social media and on the catalogs and stuff, is about like when a man has a six-pack and everything is very attractive to women. It's like, no. What really attracts a woman is a man she can count on. A man who's grounded, who's solid, that she can lean on and he won't collapse under her. Because one thing I discovered in my work was when I didn't do that, women couldn't trust me. When I found my sort of groundedness and standing on my own 2 feet energetically, it wasn't about money, it's about physicality.
Yes.
When she trusted me, that was when we could actually talk about having a relationship. So just, the paradigm from what attracts women, what attracts men, when you get that, it shifts everything.
There you go. That's a great way to put it, for sure. I can totally understand where you're coming from and what you're saying there.
That's on point, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Heck yeah.
Sure.
I think that about wraps it up, guys. I really appreciate what everyone had to say. Any closing words? Give you all the floor for free. No? All right. That's it. I'm timing the gavel, and that's it.
I want to say one thing. I think that it is very important as far as communication, especially amongst as far as our fellow males. And to each other. Recently, we had the loss of Chadwick Boseman, and that was like a very heavy blow, and the one thing that a lot of people are priding him on is the fact that no one knew, and I feel like that there's a double-edged sword to that, because, of course, you don't want that as a man. You don't want no one to take pity on you. Especially during something as vulnerable as that. But I feel like, how many people actually loved him? This is beyond the fake, whatever that some people put out, but people who were actually there, they treated him and he treated them like brothers. I think having that close circle, that tribe, you're able to just communicate, because I feel like that brings an extra layer of strength. Sometimes we really feel like we got to solo dolo this stuff, and we don't. I don't think leadership is about taking on everything by yourself. I feel like it is about knowing how to put everyone and use their strengths to be able to get what needs to be done for the betterment of everyone, and that sometimes requires you to step down and put someone else that's better fit. You never know who out there may have a solution for you, so I think just being able to communicate.
Amen to that. It all comes down to communication. And on that note, that about wraps it up for this episode of Real Talk, Real Men. Barry, Angel, Kevin, Gylan, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy. Join us next week as we continue the talk on Real Talk, Real Men. Check the gate, we're through. Guys, that was awesome, man. That one felt like...
Peace out.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Real Talk, Real Men. Be sure to like and follow @RiseAboveTV for more mindful content.